G'day friends, family, fellow patriots. Lord Stompy here in Adelaide, South Australia. Welcome to the show. This video, of course, is part 3 of my series, The Cultural Genocide of Traditional European Man. For part 1 and 2, check the information box below. Cool. Now, in my previous videos, I was talking about how the notorious Count Coudenhove-Kalergi, in his 1925 book, Praktischer Idealismus, which is otherwise known in nationalist circles as the Kalergi Plan. Now, Count Coudenhove-Kalergi, in his book, he outlined that the traditional soul of European man was basically an impediment to the liberal technocratic classes. It was something that had to be erased. It had to be culturally genocided out of the European people. Now, this was written in a book in 1925. This is 100 years ago. Look around you now. What do you see in every Western nation inhabited by European people? Does it look anything like what a traditional European nation used to look like 100 years ago? Are our people acting anything like traditional European people of 100 years ago? Does this answer your question about Count Coudenhove-Kalergi's plan? Right? Was this plan a success? Look around you, right? The traditional soul of European man had to go. And I was talking about how he said in his book, his quote was, "We will replace a diversity of people with a diversity of the mind." And by diversity of the mind, he said this in his book. He said the people he praised were the cosmopolitan liberal elites that lived in cities. And he said this was because they had these great, wonderful minds. And it was the minds of man that were the only thing of interest to Kalergi and his Jew technocrat buddies, right? That was the only part of man that they were interested in, right? They wanted to create, this program is still going, but their desire was to create a technocrat class that was high IQ but stripped of soul. Right, look around you. Look around you at the West. This is what has already happened to our people. Basically, we've been turned into these high IQ, well, at least the middle classes have. And when I say high IQ, I mean this kind of sarcastically. They've created this technocrat class that's absolutely bereft of soul. But very good at sitting in office cubicles, typing the right things into computers. That was the plan back in 1925, and it has come to fruition. So the cultural genocide of our people that was outlined by Count Coudenhove-Kalergi is basically complete. The elites that won World War One and World War Two in Europe were the banker, industrialist and merchant classes, and they defeated the old European order. And in their worldview, the entire old world European order had to go, because they had to create a world based upon a liberal technocracy, which is the world that we inhabit now. Okay, so we're most of the way there. the Kalergi plan is about 70% complete, because they've already completed the cultural genocide of the European people. Our core narratives and our core psyches as European people have been utterly twisted into the mold that the elites wanted it to be in. And you just look around you. When you look around the cities, pulling your hair out about all these green-haired, weirdo, liberal, deracinated, loser, liberal people, that it's just really tragic to see European people in this state, and it's really frustrating at the same time. When you see this, that's actually the Kalergi plan has succeeded in the cultural genocide of our people. They have now been turned into liberal zombie slaves, just like Count Coudenhove Kalergi wanted, and he outlined in 1925. So this, I pointed out in my last video that once the minds and the souls of European people had been utterly genocided and reset into this modern liberalism, basically our people now, the vast majority, are operating under the parameters of the modern liberal milieu. Now that that's happened, now the final stage of the war, which is the physical invasion of the hordes of the Kalergi army, can happen, because the elites knew that once they'd stripped us of all our traditional European identity and values, that then there would be very little resistance to flooding us with the international hordes that we're now being flooded with. And the elites were right. This was a very, very cleverly planned war, very cunning, very deeply psychological, very deeply unfair. Just very deeply. Psychological warfare of this order is one of the most disgusting things to have ever occurred in history at any time. At any time in history. Just all out blood and fire wars are much less cruel than this. Our people don't even know who they are now. They are that stripped. And I pointed this out in one of my previous videos, is essentially the modern liberalism that we're in now is the new Dark Ages. European people have been stripped of all their glory, of all their honour, of all their higher aspirations, of their basic identity, of their traditional core narrative, and we are now in a modern Babylon. Essentially, our people are captives of a modern Babylon system. And this is very interesting, because the original Babylon in the Bible was a very, very successful trading hub. It is one of the most successful cities on earth at the time. And what it did was it basically attracted more and more traders and workers from all over the ancient world. And in the end, you basically had this Kalergi type situation in Babylon, where there was a huge diversity of people of all different nations, and they were all basically slaving away under the king of Babylon. And it basically reached a point where they were cursed by God, because this is against God's law. that's every race in the world is not meant to all mix together into a single mono race. Why was England? Why was Europe? I pointed this out in video number 2. Europe was one of the most, up until very recent times, just before World War II, Europe was one of the most. It was just. It was an absolutely buzzing with diversity. Every inch of Europe was a different place. All you had to do in pre-World War II Europe was travel about 40 miles, and you'd be in a district with very different culture and customs to the district you were in before. And it's not like that at all anymore. So if you go around, the example I used in my last video was England, and my grandparents grew up in this pre-war England where England was so diverse. It has so many different cultures that it was like the small island of England was like a nation unto itself. Now, if you go to England today, that's not the case at all. It's there is some small differences between the different locations, but nothing at all like it used to be only 90 years ago. Right, England is a shadow of its former self. The English people are a shadow of their former selves. This is the new dark ages of liberalism. This is the cultural genocide and the destruction of the European people, and it is the destruction of our inner core narratives as European people. This is shocking. This is beyond disgusting. And as I said, it's only once they destroyed us as people, once they culturally genocided our culture, then they were able to basically start the accelerationist phase of their plan. That's where we are now. Where we are now in the Kalergi plan is basically the hyper-accelerationist phase. Right, so this is a popular term amongst nationalists, accelerationism. So there are very many nationalists, probably a growing number I'd say, who actually want to accelerate the destruction of Western civilization with it. And the aim of doing that is essentially it's a positive one. Right? They want to accelerate the destruction of Western civilization so that we get a fighting chance to start again. So nationalists who believe in accelerationism, and to some degree I believe in it myself, because I do not want this slow death of the European people to be a really agonizing, drawn out thing. Right, to some degree I believe in acceleration myself. So the idea of accelerationism is if we kind of accelerate the destruction of Western civilization, that'll be a leveling act that will eradicate the liberal elites and get them off our backs, and hopefully we'll have some kind of fighting chance of rebuilding and starting again. That's the accelerationist game plan there in a nutshell. And so there's many nationalists who want accelerationism, but likewise the liberal elites, the Jews and their they're elite Shabos guys who are running this shit show that we're in at the moment. They've decided to put their plan into accelerationist mode as well. So the levels of mass immigration we're getting in every Western land now are completely unsustainable. Our systems are absolutely buckling under the pressure. And of course this is a terrible thing overall. But in some ways it is good because sadly, due to the liberal, the mind-fucking effects of generations of liberalism here in the Western world, people have been rendered so helpless and so naive and so brain dead that the vast majority of Western people I know are offering no pushback against mass immigration. And it's only now that it's ended up being just these pathologically unsustainable levels of mass immigration that finally actually a lot of the normies are waking up. So the elite's putting their own Kalergi plan into accelerationist mode has, it's made everything get pretty hot, that's for sure. And it's actually waking up some of the normies. As the pot starts to boil ferociously, even some of the normies are waking up and saying, ouch. So that's quite a thing in itself. So really this is where we're at, and this has been going on a long time. Now, before World War II started, in the lead up to World War II, many Europeans predicted that this general direction that the Western world has gone in now would be, well, they had some idea that the outcome would be something pretty tragic like this. Now, the main guy who was onto this was Hitler, of course. He was a man that was very, very ahead of his time. And he referred to Count Coudenhove-Kalergi as that cosmopolitan bastard. I think he actually said that in Mein Kampf. And so Hitler was very well aware that Count Coudenhove-Kalergi and his Jewish friends, most of Count Coudenhove-Kalergi's friends were Jewish, and the Kalergi plan was basically set out for the benefit of the Jews. It was specifically written in the book. It said this plan is so that the Jews may rule over Europe. Once we completely culturally genocide and then physically genocide the European people, then the Jews will remain as a separate people. They won't breed themselves out of existence, and the Jewish people shall then be the ruling class of Europe. So Hitler was very much onto this. He'd read Coudenhove-Kalergi's little book. He'd studied the Jews and the cosmopolitan elites of Europe, and he knew that they were planning the genocide of the European people, and he did everything in his power to not just warn us, but to try to save the European people as a whole from this general fate. Now, here's something I find really interesting. I want you guys to look into this, think about it yourself. So when World War II really kicked off, if we look at it, that was the most liberal Western nations basically fighting against the least liberal Western nations and the least liberal Asian nation. Japan in its day was definitely the least liberal Asian nation. It was the most hardline traditionalist, militaristic Asian nation of its day. And so essentially World War II had very clearly drawn battle lines. It was the liberal West versus a coalition of the traditionalist West. Now Hitler and his buddies wanted to protect the traditionalist Europe that they grew up in. They didn't want it to be transformed in some deranged liberal scheme. And you'll notice that the nations or the people within nations that the Nazis occupied, the nations and the people that responded the most positively to the Nazi occupation and became their closest allies were the most traditionalist Europeans. Most of them were very traditional Christians. So nations like deeply Catholic nations like Italy, Spain was more aligned with the Axis than with the Allies. Many Eastern European nations are Slovenia, Ukraine, very, very deeply traditional Christian. Now, when you look at USA, Britain and France, who were the main allies, they were the most liberal, atheistic Western nations of the day. Right, so they weren't fighting to preserve tradition, God, honour, family, and blood. They were fighting for liberalism. It's really clear if you look at the difference in propaganda and the difference in strategy between the two sides. The Axis were trying to preserve an old order, and the Allies were trying to force a new world order down everyone's throats, and the Allies won, and here we are now. Surprise, surprise. Alright, well that's all I've got to say for part 3. I might do a part 4, but I've summed up most of it for now. So thank you for listening. Take care. God bless. Deus Vult.